Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. UFC 269 is 3 weeks away, and this card is just crazy stacked from top to bottom with amazing fights. I've done videos like this in the past for other UFC pay-per-views, but I figured UFC 269 was a very worthy pay-per-view. I make another video like this. I'm going to briefly go through most of the card on UFC 269, talk about some of the notable fights on the card, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to grade the card, just how good is UFC 269. So if you look at the main event, it's Charles Oliveira defending his lightweight title against Dustin Poirier. What an amazing fight. I can't wait for this. Charles Oliveira stopped Michael Chandler for the vacant lightweight title back in May of this year, I believe it was. Absolutely incredible two-round fight. Charles Oliveira hurt badly in the first round. Referee so close to stopping it and crowning Michael Chandler the lightweight champion. Charles Oliveira comes out in that second round after surviving the first and just finishes Michael Chandler in the first 30 seconds. One of the best two-round fights I've ever seen. Dustin Poirier, he definitely deserves this title shot. Former interim lightweight champion. He's coming in on 3 wins. He beat Dan Hooker in one of the greatest fights of 2020. Then he stops Conor McGregor in 2 straight fights to earn this title shot. And there's really not many others who are deserving at this point in time. I know there's talk of Justin Gaethje, Islam, but it's no doubt that Dustin Poirier deserves this title shot, and this is a very competitive fight. Anybody who says they are certain one of these fighters or the other is going to win, I don't know. I don't believe them because I'm leaning Charles Oliveira. I may change my mind by the time the fight comes around, but I really truly believe both of these guys has a very significant chance to win this fight. Dustin Poirier, so durable, unlimited gas tank. Charles Oliveira getting better every time out, super technical in the feet, amazing jiu-jitsu, lightning fast submissions. I just, I could really see this fight going either way. And these are the fights, as an MMA fan, that really get me excited because when I look at a matchup and I'm like, man, I really don't know one way or the other. And it's just, I know both of these guys are elite level, world-class fighters. These are the fights that I really look forward to, so I cannot wait for Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. The co-main event is Amanda Nunes versus Julianna Peña. Again, guys, I'm always going to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, I love this fight or, whatever, just because, we're supposed to care about title fights. Not all that excited about this fight. At least it's a title fight. I'd rather have 2 title fights than maybe something else. But does Julianna Peña really even deserve this title shot? I mean, she's coming off 1 win over Sarah McMahon. I mean, how impressive is a win over Sarah McMahon, in 2021? You guys tell me. I don't know. Before that, she lost to Jeraine Demandamine. Before that, she had a win over Nico Montana. And before that, a loss to Valentina Shevchenko. So Julianna Peña is just there for lack of other contenders. So for me, this co-main event, leaves a lot to be desired, as I've said in previous videos. But at least it's a title fight, and I'm always happy to witness Amanda Nunes' greatness. She's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, women's MMA fighter of all time. And I'm just happy to see her fight every time out. And I think this will probably be a demolition of Julianna Peña. I'll be doing prediction videos as the fight gets closer. But, when it's a one-sided fight, at least in my mind, maybe Julianna Peña will surprise us. But when it's such a one-sided fight in my mind, it's hard to get super excited for that. You move down the card, and this is the bout order on the UFC's official website, so they may change this around a little bit, but either way, the fights are on the card, unless there's an injury or whatever, somebody pulls out. Geoff Neal versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. I absolutely love this fight. Geoff Neal's ranked number 11. Ponzinibbio's ranked number 13. Geoff Neal is a great fighter, and I always thought that he had a potential chance to maybe make a run at a title, but I don't know anymore. He's not super old. He's only 31 years old. Ponzinibbio's coming in off his win over Miguel Baeza. Before that, he was absolutely starched by Li Jingliang. And that wasn't that long ago. That was just in January of this year. So it's really kind of like a crossroad for both guys because both of these guys, whether it be Ponzinibbio or Geoff Neal, both of those guys at one point were highly touted prospects. Now they've made their way close to the top 10 or in the top 15 at least. And now, it's kind of like they have to be able to perform and make that next step. Santiago Ponzinibbio, that's a decent win over Miguel Baeza, but I don't know how well that's aged. Chaos Williams just stopped him recently. Geoff Neal, he has that loss to Neil Magny in his last fight. Terrible loss, in my opinion. I mean, I know Neil Magny is a very well-rounded fighter, But again, that's not the greatest loss to have on the resume. A loss to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson where he just got outclassed in that fight. His last win was against Mike Perry back in December of 2019. So this is a very important welterweight fight. I like to call them two up-and-comers, but they're really not up-and-comers anymore. Both of these guys have been around for a long while. So, who knows what could happen here. One guy gets starched. If Geoff Neal gets starched in this fight and gets KO'd by some point, there's a chance he could end up in Bellator after this. So I'm very intrigued in this Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Geoff Neal fight, and it's two high-ranked guys. Underneath that is Kai Kara France versus Cody Garbrandt. And what I find most exciting about this fight is Cody Garbrandt making his flyweight debut. Kai Kara France is currently ranked number 6 in the flyweight division according to the UFC's website. And Cody Garbrandt has won, I think, one fight since I think he's won 1 out of his last 5 fights. He has the 2 losses to Dillashaw, the loss to Pedro Munhoz, and the loss to Garbrandt. He has the win over Rafael Sunsao. So he hasn't had much success at bantamweight since winning the belt. Been knocked out quite a few times. He was outclassed against Rob Font, just had his face jabbed off. So he decided to make the move to flyweight. And maybe, he said he can make the weight rather easily. Maybe he'll be able to become a champion at flyweight. We'll be able to tell. We'll get our first tell at UFC 269 because Kai Kara France is a legit flyweight fighter. And, I know there was talk for a while of closing down the flyweight division, but, it has grown over the last few years. You got guys like Brandon Moreno now as champ, Davison Figueiredo, Askar Askarov, Alexandra Pantoja. Now you got Cody Garbrandt making his way to the flyweight division. He was supposed to fight Davison Figueiredo last December. He got sick, was unable to fight. So I'm curious now if he can get this win over Kai Kara France. I think he'll be on a short list to fight for the title very, very soon. I know we got Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figueiredo for the flyweight belt, the trilogy coming in January. But Cody Garbrandt goes out there and puts on a spectacular performance against Kai Kara France, and I think he can earn himself a title shot. You move down the card. This fight is supposed to open the main card. Raulian Paiva versus Sean O'Malley. This fight, I'm excited for. I'm always excited to see Sean O'Malley fight. He looks spectacular, but he hasn't fought elite level competition. Paiva, I would have preferred a higher up opponent for Sean O'Malley. I know Sean O'Malley's not ranked, but Paiva barely survived the fight against Kyler Phillips. And, he was super durable. He didn't get finished. And, Kyler Phillips gassed himself out. And Paiva was able to win the second and third round. It probably should have been a draw because the first round should have been a 10-8 for Kyler Phillips. So I'm just not all that enticed for this fight. And I feel like what a lot of Sean O'Malley fans are doing is they are elevating the perceived skill level of Raulian Paiva so that when Sean O'Malley beats him, they can say, yeah, look at that great win for Sean O'Malley. But the reality is, Sean O'Malley, even if he beats Paiva, he has really not proven anything. I guess it's a little bit better than, Luis Smoka, a little bit better than Chris Montinho. But still, I want to see him fight a top 15 or one of these other up-and-coming all-stars like Adriano Yanez, or there's just a million guys at bantamweight who are so good even outside of the rankings. So, Sean O'Malley, who knows? But if he loses this fight, honestly, this sounds crazy, but it might be the end of him. I know he had that step up in competition. It was first step up against Marlon Vera, and he got his leg kicked off and, flash KO'd by elbows, and then he was stretchered out of the cage with no injury. And the UFC's kind of been babying him a little bit since then. But I'm really hoping if he goes out there and puts on a world-class performance against Raulian Paiva, maybe finishes him impressively in the first or second round, I'm really hoping he gets a big step up in competition. Because the reason I'm always talking about this is because I'm genuinely curious how Sean O'Malley does against some of the elite of the bantamweight division. You move down the card, and this is on the prelims. Josh Emmett versus Dan Ige. Josh Emmett has not fought since June of 2020. Against Shane Burgos. Dan Ige is coming in off a loss against Chan Sung Jung by decision. This is a great featherweight fight. I'm very curious. Josh Emmett's currently ranked number 7. Dan Ige's ranked number 9. Amazing featherweight fight. The division is a little bit, kind of backlogged right now. You have Max Holloway probably going for the third title shot. You have Giga Chikadze making his way up the ranks right now. But still, a very important and very relevant fight, and both guys are highly skilled. And I'm just excited to see Josh Emmett back in there. It seems like much longer than June of 2020. And I know that was a year and a half ago, but it just seems like years since we've seen Josh Emmett. He's a big, powerful featherweight. Dan Ige's, every one of his fights are exciting. So I think this is a great fight to have on the prelims. That's insane. And there's even more amazing fights on the prelims. we have Pedro Munhoz versus Dominick Cruz. Pedro Munhoz coming in off that loss to Jose Aldo. That was a great fight, even in a loss. Before that, he beat Jimmy Rivera. Before that, he lost to Frankie Edgar, but I thought he won that fight. It was clear as day. And you have Dominick Cruz, considered by some to be the bantamweight GOAT at this point in time. But he hasn't really had, he's only had one win since he lost his belt to Cody Garbrandt all the way back in 2016, which is crazy. And it was a split decision win over Casey Kenny. So, you know, it's really time to see, and I hate to say it because I'm a huge Dominick Cruz fan, can Dominick Cruz still hang with the elite of the elite? Because Pedro Munhoz, even though, you know, he's trading wins and losses here and there, Pedro Munhoz is the elite of the elite at bantamweight. I mean, the guy has a granite chin. He has great pressure. He has great hands. He has great power. He has amazing leg kicks. And what is Dominick Cruz known for? His movement. And, you know, if Pedro Munhoz can go in there and really start chopping those legs, I don't know how Dominick Cruz will do. And Dominick Cruz is getting up there in age. I believe he's 36 now. And, you know, it's just, I know it's going to be sad if Pedro Munhoz goes out there and just starches him. But I think a lot of people are getting that feeling maybe Dominick Cruz don't belong anymore in that upper echelon of the bantamweight division. He's currently ranked number 10. Munhoz is currently ranked number 8. So it makes a lot of sense. But I think stylistically, this is a terrible matchup for Dominick Cruz. That's pretty much all the really great fights on the card. But you also have Augusto Sakai versus Tuivasa on the prelims, a great heavyweight fight. Augusto Sakai is ranked number 11. Tuivasa is currently not ranked. But we all know what we expect with these heavyweight fights. There's going to be someone that's going to be KO'd, and especially a fight with Augusto Sakai and Tuivasa. I think that's going to be a great heavyweight fight, and it's going to be a fan-friendly fight. Then you look at the early prelims. We have nothing but great fights on this card. I'm not going to go over them too much. I don't want to make this video super long. Andre Munez versus Drisco du Plessis. Great middleweight fight. Andre Munez, you know, is a very interesting prospect at middleweight. He recently had that submission over Jacare Souza. I think that was late last year or something like that. I can't remember exactly when that happened, or early this year, actually. But a very interesting prospect at middleweight. Can't wait to see how he does. You have Macy Barbara. I don't know who's really all excited for her. I know the UFC was getting behind her for a while there. I don't think she's a high-level fighter, so I'm not super excited for that. But still a decent name on the prelims. You got Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell. Another great flyweight fight. I think Alex Perez is an amazing flyweight. He's currently ranked number 6. Matt Schnell is currently ranked number 9. So this is another great fight. And there's so many ranked fighters on this card. And I know, you know, I don't treat the UFC rankings as some like biblical thing, but, you know, just to have this many guys of a high level on a card, and I use those rankings as a reference, it's just amazing. And this is the early prelims. Then you have Ryan Hall versus Derek Minner, a great flyweight fight. Excited to see Ryan Hall back in there. You got Randy Costa on the card versus Tony Kelly, another decent fight. There's just so many great fights on this card. You know, looking over the card, honestly, I am going to be doing about 7 individual prediction videos for UFC 269, maybe 8. So this card is just absolutely stacked. If I really had to put a grade on it, and guys, I want you to comment down below. Let me know, what do you grade UFC 269? I know there might be some pullouts. Unfortunately, we already lost Jorge Masvidal versus Leon Edwards. But I'm looking over this card right now. There's so many solid prelims, but the co-main event kind of takes away from the fight a little bit. You know, just for reference, UFC 268, I would have gave about an A-, just because the top 2 title fights were just amazing. This card, I'm going to give a B-. I just think the main event is great. Then the entire card is full of great fights, very important fights, but it just doesn't have that second amazing title fight. Like at UFC 268, we had Usman versus Colt Covington 2, and then we had Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas 2. 2 top-tier title fights. And on this card, I feel like Amanda Nunes versus Julianna Peña is just kind of filling in space on the card. Not that excited for it, but again, so many other great fights to look forward to, whether it be the main card, the prelims, or the early prelims. I'm going to be watching every single fight on this card. The UFC 269 is can't miss. And honestly, I believe if Jorge Masvidal versus Leon Edwards was still on this card, I would probably give it a solid A. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.